Wilson Morales, Black Film TV. Hey, Idris, how's it going?
I'm good, Wilson. How are you? You're looking super sharp, man. I love the trim, the beard. Jeez.
Got to get ready, coming out to LA for the Oscars, But here we are, the return of Luther. Was it a difficult decision to say, I'm going to come back and do a film as opposed to a series?
No, no, no. I mean, it wasn't so much of a decision as a sort of commitment to try and make it happen. And we knew at the end of the series that, it was either do or die at that junction. The series literally saw John Luther go to prison. Where do you go from there? And now we constructed this platform of the film to go on.
So when people who watch this and they have not watched the series, are they getting the same guy personality wise as opposed to something different because this is a film?
Eventually, when we meet him, if you've never met this character before, you're meeting a vulnerable guy. Here's the setup. He's a detective that doesn't mind bending the law, that got caught and got put in prison with a lot of the people that he put in prison. That's the setup. Then this case comes to haunt him, and he has to find a way to go fix that case, even though he's not a copper anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And, eventually you get to meet the Luther that we've known in this TV show.
You're working opposite Cynthia and Andy. Is Andy's character more ruthless than any of the previous guys you've had in the previous Luthers?
He's ruthless in a different way. He's definitely more calculated, and I think he actually gets to murder a lot more people because of what he has on them, and that's like a real manipulation of their insecurities and fears. Shame is scarier than death, and he's taken advantage of that.
It's good to see Cynthia in this role. I like the chemistry between Luther and Odette. Can we see the return of Luther, or is he passing the baton to Odette?
I think we can see the return of John because, now we have a slightly larger landscape to tell more stories. And I think, I saw the premiere and I watched it and I was like, this character plays in films as well.
Mm-hmm. What is it about Luther that keeps the people want to see him come back and over again? You've been playing this character for a long time, and I know you like to do other roles, but this is the one that fans really like.
Well, it's one that I really like as well. And also, I think, as a character, he's a hero, anti-hero who just does not take no for an answer. You know what I mean? Like, he just keeps going. And I think people love that. People love tenacity.
Mm-hmm. Well, Idris, congrats on the road. Congrats on bringing back Luther. We want to see more of him, so keep it going. We'll talk down the road.
We'll talk down the road, my guy. Thank you.
Hello
Ready
again.
To go? Good. How are you? Wilson Morales, Black Film TV. Hi, Cynthia. How's it going?
You don't have to introduce yourself to me. I've known you so much. We've seen each other so often at this point. How are you?
Yeah. Good. It's good to see you in this series playing DCI, so obviously you get a lot of projects, whether it's, made for television, made for streaming, films. What went into saying yes to taking on this particular role?
I think it was because a couple things. The script was really cool. And I read this woman and I had never met her before. I just had never seen anyone that was like her. There's loads of police officers and, women in police dramas, but there was just something really different about her. She has both darkness and light, and she's complicated and just a bit different. That she commands the room without really needing to force that much. But then you watch this person who is completely put together kind of unravel and find her grittiness and her darkness and her sort of like her deep guttural sense of protection as a mother. And I loved her discovery of that. And I think I just wanted to play that. I wanted to see what that was like.
Now, this is a film that you don't necessarily need to go back and watch the previous seasons of Luther, but had you watched it, or did you just come into it fresh?
No, I had watched it. I'd watched every season, and I was really excited by it. It's very dark, and I was like, oh, this might be an interesting one to do. Yeah.
And then there's obviously working opposite Idris. There's you, there's Idris. Nothing more needs to be said. Say less, say. What was that chemistry like working on this particular
It's
film?
really cool. It was really fun. I love working with Idris. I love working with Idris. I think he's really, really sweet, and he's so hardworking, and he makes so much space for you. And I think we had a really cool sort of like dance on screen, the two of us. I feel like they make a really good pair. Um, and I think they're unlikely as well, which I think works. They sort of see eye to eye and also see completely differently, which is really fun to play.
I would be game to watch a series with Odette. Would you?
I would happily. I would
You know,
happily.
I
Do
get
that.
entrenched in watching these, British series, and it's DCI this, but it's not. Obviously we've had now Luther. We can do
Yeah.
an Odette.
Yeah.
We can do an Odette, DCI Odette, and keep it going. But overall, with the projects that you do, what goes into saying yes to any of the projects? You've done musicals, you've done.
It's the character. It's what the story is. If I'm interested in that story, what the story is for the character, then I want to do that. If I've met this person before, I'm probably not going to play them. But if I haven't met them and I'm interested in what makes them tick, then I'm going to lean in. And if there are, I sometimes ask myself, would I want to have a conversation with this person? And if the answer is yes, then I'm probably going to play them because I want to meet them. Yeah.
Before I let you go, was there anything you got out of this from its direction or from the people you worked with that you can take on to your next project?
I think you always pick up something. I just had a really good time. I had a really good time from it. I made some really good friends on it as well. I still talk to the director. I loved working with him. I think that he's a wonderful way of getting into the actor's psyche and figuring out how to tell the story. But it also went right back to like my dresser, who is now dressing me on Wicked. I loved her so much that it was like, I want you to come and work with me. And the woman who's doing my hair on Wicked was the woman who was working on Wicked as well. She was working, but I loved her energy and she was so lovely. It just, I gained a lot from this particular project, not just in the way of playing this character who I adore. I don't know what it is about her, but I really loved playing her. She felt really good to be in. I gained that, and I also sort of gained a bit of a family from it. So it's really cool.
And friendships.
And friendship.
It's always good to see you. Obviously, it's good to talk
thank
to you
you.
wherever you're at. So keep it going. I'm always here to support.
Thank you.
Take care. Wilson Morales from Black Film TV. Hey, Andy, how's it going?
Hey, Wilson, how are you, man?
Good. Whenever I watch your performances, there's a portion in the film where it's all about the voice. There's something sinister in the way you speak with some of the roles you've played. And obviously, this is a no-brainer, so going into this, I had to ask myself, do I need to watch the series? And it goes, no, because you have Idris and Andy and Cynthia, like, okay, those are standalone names and you don't need to watch going back. What led you to say yes to taking on this project?
I almost didn't take this on because I found the character too despicable and dark, and I just thought, do I really want to go here with this man? But what really spoke to me was, Neil Cross is such a brilliant writer, and what he's written is a character which is the kind of the encapsulated, or encapsulates rather, a much bigger monster, which is the internet, which is what we've all become so used to and handed over responsibility to and become addicted to. So that was what appealed to me, was that David Roby in himself is a nothing. He's a ghost in the shell, if you like. Nothing's there except for his ability to exist online as a menace and to pull people apart and manipulate them and find their shame and really drill into them. So that was, I just thought it was a very really interesting screen monster, actually.
Did you have to find yourself having to go now, even though this was a standalone film, you don't need to watch the previous seasons to get it, but did you have to go back and watch this so you can get a sense as to who the character of Luther is, and working with some of the team that have worked on the series before?
I knew Luther, and I had watched it before because I'm a big fan of Idris's, and I love his acting. I think he's great, and so it was. So I'd already sort of understood the world and the tone and the darkness and the grittiness of the TV series. But what was so appealing about this was that plus, you know, I knew it was, you know, this is going to be a big movie for an international audience. There will be people who don't know those that TV series and are coming at it the first time. So it's like a fresh canvas in a way, a fresh platform, but taking all the best from, you know, the Neil Cross's excellent scripts from beforehand, and it would expand into this big movie world, but at the same time retain its darkness and its groundedness in reality.
And you mentioned just earlier about, you know, you didn't want to take it because it's too dark. Sometimes actors like playing dark roles because it lets them be free when you're playing the sort of villain, you know, and you've done this villain roles, you know, you've played complicated characters. Let's just say that, you know, there's a reason for why they are who they are. You know, is there any humanity in David?
I think there is, because I think there's humanity. I think you hit the nail on the head. You know, that's what's exciting about playing a character like this is it's doing that work to find the humanity in a character like this. So whereas you could write him off if you believe in the concept of evil, you write him off immediately as, you know, a deranged madman or a psychopath, and that's it. But what spoke to me was his loneliness, actually, his isolated. He doesn't, as I say, he doesn't really exist. Everything that he watches people, and it's only by watching people that he tries to understand humanity or connect with it in some way. And the way he dresses, the way he is all fragments of other people that he's pieced together. He's sort of like a Frankenstein person who's sort of, you know, even the what he wears, the way his hair is, everything is constructed. And he also has this bizarre sort of morality in which which is very real to him. His logic, his moral logic is he can't stand people who are hypocrites, who like Luther, which is why he wants to take him down. People who think that they have take the moral high ground because they're above most of us, you know, who do live online in these dark web spaces. So it's in his world, he's actually doing something. He's on a mission, you know.
You know, what's scary about this film is that, you know, when people watch it, there is the dark web, and it's scary about it. And you've played it well, that you start becoming scared of some of these characters because they're all out there. Congrats on the role. I'm sure we'll talk again. Take care.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Take care.
Wilson Morales from Black Film TV. Hey, folks, how's it going?
Hello, Wilson. Hello. Good.
So when did the idea for the film come about? When was it after the series was too much to do? And so let's just do one film. Who came up with the idea?
That's the true story. Yeah. It's one of those, Idris and I have been talking about it since it's either the end of season 1 or the beginning of season 2. Around that time, the emails and the text started to bounce around. So we've been thinking about it for a long time. The time wasn't right until now.
Mm-hmm. And then, you know, obviously for someone like me, you know, I said to myself, do I need to go back and watch the previous seasons, or is this going to be a standalone where you don't need to go back? You know, was that the idea that when you're creating this film, make it so that way people are not so confused? Because then if you make it so where it's a continuation from where the series left off, you may lose an audience because if they, you know, the people just don't have the time to play catch up.
It was incredibly important to Idris, to Jamie, and to me from the get-go. That on the one hand, we acknowledge the debt of obligation and loyalty we've got to the existing audience, but that we in no way alienate the new audience. We want the new audience who's never watched or even been aware of the show to be able to sit down without any friction or barriers to entry and enjoy a standalone movie. So it was good. That was kind of hard work, took a lot of thought, but it was very important to us.
And Jamie, I spoke to Andy. He said he initially wasn't going to do it because he thought the character was too dark. You know, how dark did you want to make this?
Well, I think, you know, it is a dark tale and an entertainingly dark tale. I met up with Andy hours after he finished reading the script. Now, Andy is the nicest, most open human that you'll meet. But he had a serious face as we sat down, and clearly he wanted to understand what I loved about this character that Neil had created. And we started talking about the ambition that we all shared for the film. And the good thing about all of Neil's villains, and is really important, is that however twisted they are, they're twisted humanity. And Andy can't enter into the skin of any character unless he understands the humanity, however unhappy that might be. There was an acting teacher that once said to me, and I don't agree with this, but this is really interesting, that there are no evil people, there are just unhappy people in the pursuit of happiness, and that happiness we might judge as being evil. And the thing about Andy Serkis is that he absolutely has to understand the joy. What would make David Roby happy? And who knew that would be such an important part of his characterization? Because I think it is.
Now, for folks who have been watching the series and they're going to watch this because they want to see, the return of Luther, are there any Easter eggs in here for the fans, as opposed to someone like me who's watching this movie for the first time and watching this character? And is there a possibility that this is not over, that if it does really well, we receive the return of Luther?
There's not, I'm not sure there's any Easter eggs as such, because I worry that something which is a genuine Easter egg is a kind of discourtesy to new viewers. Because it's like meeting two friends and they make a private joke, and you see they're making a private joke and you feel a bit excluded. But there are, because, Idris and John and Jamie and I have been together a long time. So there are references to the past. There are little acknowledgements and little nods to what's gone before in all kinds of ways, but never in such a way as to be kind of sneering and smart and to be discourteous to new viewers. And yeah, we can go further.
Yeah, people would like to see that. I'd like to see a series on Odette, if you can make it happen.
Well, do you know what? I love Odette Rain very much. So that's something that I would be happy seriously to consider.
Hey, make it so. Your words. Good talking to you, gentlemen. Congrats on the film. We'll talk again down the road when the series on Odette is greenlit.
Let's do that.
Very good.
It was a pleasure. Thank you very much.